What is up, guys? Welcome back to Technical Fowl podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Jack Anderson. To my right, there's JP Pusilowski, the president of the Riley Kugel is a Mississippi State Bulldog Legend fan club. How's it going, JP?
It's going well, guys. It's a good hump day here in Starkville, Mississippi. Weather has been beautiful. I am not ready for it to get stupid hot. I do not like Mississippi summers because it's just way too hot. But the weather has been beautiful today, so vibes are high.
I think we got a couple more weeks of good weather before we really hit the true heat, and then it'll just get worse from there.
I'm not a fan of what we got going on now. The humidity. I mean, my hair.
It's not the heat. It's the humidity that gets you.
I need a haircut so bad because I walked outside and it was just like an afro. Like, it's bad.
Just wear a hat.
I have never found a hat that I look good in.
Try a bucket hat, maybe. I think you could rock it.
I rocked a bucket hat at Suco last year.
Sure, yeah.
Playing volleyball and stuff. No, that was 2 years ago. Last year was braids. Last year was my hair.
I think you go with the bucket hat over the braids.
I had different braids every day for volleyball. Dude, I was locked.
You were dialed for
the fake pit vipers too.
Quarterfinals exit for us.
I think it was, but it's because we ran into the best team. They were like 4 times.
No excuses. No excuses.
We ran into them and we got a tough draw. I mean, we should have been a 1 seed, and it's random, so like there are no seeding, but like we were the third best team out there.
I don't know if I'd agree. Mentally, we didn't always show the best mental strength. Anyway, you've already heard a bunch from them. Sanders is here as always.
Oh yeah, what's up?
Trying to think of something to say about him.
No, it's good. I speak for myself.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. He speaks for himself. On the docket today, we got Final Four previews. We'll get into that in a minute, and then we'll go into our normal weekly segments: Cock of the Walk, Winner, Chicken Dinner, and then Sanders' Question of the Week. First, however, I want to talk about some news that matters a lot to me, probably not tons of other people, but we've talked about it on this show before.
It's your show, man. So.
Exactly. We're here to talk about what we want to talk about, what's interesting to us, and y'all are welcome to join along. Buzz Williams, saying former is just like a huge weight off my chest talking about him. Former Texas A&M basketball coach. Took the Maryland job 2 days ago, I believe. Maybe yesterday it was official, but 2 days ago it was like you kind of knew it was going to happen.
I'm about to put this on screen.
You're going to put that on screen? Okay.
I'm literally going to edit the video as we're going, so you keep going.
Y'all know the meme where it's like the chains are broken between the guy's arms, and there's like the sunrise. I tweeted that yesterday. It sums up my feelings perfectly. But yeah, he's off to Maryland. The writing was kind of on the wall for about a week now that Buzz wanted out. Honestly, it seems like he's wanted out for the past year and a half. He's been planning his escape. As he knew this kind of senior class A&M was going out the door with 8 seniors. So A&M is – there he is.
I'm just going to put this over you. This is you right now.
Okay. A&M is now in the middle of a coaching search. I don't know. Conflicting reports about Chris Beard, whether he's a realistic option or if he's going to stay at Ole Miss. I think that'll probably come to a close today, and then if it's not him, we can move on. Anyway, I got 3 points about this, okay? I'll try and keep them short, but what can you do? First, I'm going to talk about Buzz Williams as a whole. Buzz Williams is a charlatan. He comes into your program. He pretends he has all this knowledge, and he's just, this really ethereal guy, and he's going to talk all about how he's going to get the guys to play hard, and that's what matters. They're going to outwork everyone, and just when they've hit their max effort, they're going to find a way to redefine what their max effort is and hit another gear and all this crap. However, hard work doesn't win you games, right? It wins you some. But at the end of the day, I've seen it time and time again with A&M and with Buzz Williams' teams. We just don't have the talent or the execution, the X and O's. We don't have JP's, blobs and slobs over there, inbounds plays and whatnot to get over the hump. We're gross, we're ugly, but we'll lose 4 games in a row, and he'll sit there at his desk in the press conference and be like, we just didn't try hard enough. We got to execute better. I believe in the guys. All this crap. Then he's out the door. We've seen it time and time again. Every 5 years, he's off to his next spot before the place he's currently at can sour on him too much. He just moves on, a lateral move, to kind of set up his scheme and his ruse elsewhere. And so that brings me to my second point. Maryland, I'm sorry for you guys. Interacted with some of y'all on Twitter and just kind of was trying to feel out the pulse of what y'all were looking for in your coaching hire. And y'all wanted a splash hire. I'm not saying you would have got a splash hire, but even besides that, y'all wanted a non-safe hire, right? You wanted a guy, maybe a high ceiling guy at least. Maybe a low floor could crash and burn. But with the way Kevin Williard did y'all when he went to Villanova, y'all were kind of tired of playing it safe and just going from there. Y'all wanted to commit to somebody, and y'all the exact opposite. Buzz Williams, he's plateaued as a coach. You know what you're going to get. Like I said, he's going to come in and get his guys to work hard for a couple years and then leave, and you'll win a bunch of regular season games probably, but you'll never do anything special. And that is not what Maryland fans wanted, and I apologize to y'all because the athletic department just didn't listen to y'all, which happens a lot. I mean, they don't have to listen to y'all, but regardless, I'm sorry that you now have the charlatan as y'all's head coach. Which brings me to my third and final point. Already touched on it. A&M's finally free, and it's a great feeling. Hopefully, I don't know who we're going to hire yet, so maybe I'll come back on the next show and be like, we're no longer free. We just have we're captives of someone else. But I'm hoping we can actually watch exciting basketball and good basketball and have a coach that actually knows good X's and O's and can do in-game adjustments and go from there. Maybe a guy like Chris Jans, could join the fold. Not actually. I'm just throwing a jab at the state fans beside me. Yeah, sure. But anyway, that's what I got. Thank you, Buzz Williams, for leaving. I'm sorry, Maryland fans. Good luck. Best of luck to y'all.
I saw something that said Buzz Williams' career. It's like he had an angel, or like he made a deal with the devil that like he's gonna win basketball games, but he's being chased by this super slow, deadly snail, so he can't stay in the same place for too long, or the snail will catch up to him.
I mean, it simply is that he can't recruit, and so once his kind of initial guys, his initial group leaves the program, he's cooked. And he's just going to move on and run his little hard work beats all gimmick elsewhere until that starts to collapse. And then he gets out the door before it really collapses on him, and he can't really find another job. So shout out to him. He's got the pattern down well. But I just know it's not what Maryland fans really wanted in terms of a coaching hire. It's a bad sign when you hire a guy from somewhere and literally everyone at the school that he was hired from is rejoicing in the streets and dancing around. Anyway, that's an aside. We can get into the real meat of the podcast now and go into our Final Four preview. JP, you want to kick us off? I know you're watching film over there, I see.
Yeah, I'm currently watching the Florida-Auburn game back again.
On 10 times speed to try and get through pretty quick.
I'm just watching the ESPN highlights, so 12-minute video. I got through 7 minutes there, so not too bad. But
Jack talked for 7 minutes?
We had the intro, too. You talked for a good 2 minutes of it.
Oh, you're right. I forgot.
Yeah.
I hear about your hair debacle.
Oh, yeah, hair and the humidity. It's not the heat, it's the humidity.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we're going to get a rematch between Auburn and Florida. That'll be the first game on Saturday. Florida is still favored by 2.5, I do believe. That is correct. Rematch of the game in the Plains. Just to recap on the first matchup. Gators won 90-81. Auburn started the game. They're up 10 in the first 7 minutes. And then the Gators were up 68-48 with 13 minutes left. And then the Gators were up 16 with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. So this wasn't a 9-point game. This wasn't a close 84-81 game, and then Florida hits free throws at the end. The Gators dominated this game.
Yeah.
And having just watched the film in the past 20 seconds, it clearly shows that Walter Clayton was getting really whatever he wanted. But the big thing for them was how. You say it how?
I think it's how.
How and Condon dominated. They combined for 33, 19, and 7, which is just an average night for Nikola Jokic. But them combined for 33, 19, and 7 against some people's National Player of the Year, Jani Broome, and a pretty stout Auburn defense for the most part. They are 4-3 in KenPom. This is the number 2 offense and the number 3 offense. This is going to be the high-scoring game. This is kind of shown by the totals Vegas has. There's a 23-point difference between the total of this game and the total of the second game. So expect another shootout. The big thing for that one, though, will be are the balls overinflated, and then the depth perception thing will definitely play a factor.
Always does.
In the Alamo Dome. I kind of favor Florida again. Florida's just been really hot. We've talked about how they've escaped a ton, and I think we've kind of said that with Auburn, where they're just not really playing excellent, but it's kind of an easy path per se. I favor Florida here again. I really like what they bring to the table. I think they match up with Auburn really, really well. They have the bigs to defend Jani Broome, and then the big thing for them is like I mean, Walter Clayton can score a ton. Will Richard and Elijah Martin are excellent guards offensively and defensively. And they're also, bigger, stronger, faster than Chad Baker-Mazara, than Pettiford. They're just as big as Denver Jones and Miles Kelly. They match up with them very well, but they're better offensively. Miles Kelly, Denver Jones, more so known for their defense, and not so much their offense. And
they can get hot from three, but overall, for sure.
I kind of favor the Gators here, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I would pick the Gators to win this game. A lot of the similar reasons you said. Janai Broome is just as good of a player as he is, and he's amazing. He's a legitimate contender for National Player of the Year. I'm not taking that away from him. I do wonder sometimes if I feel he gets a little overhyped defensively, especially in like one-on-one. I mean, he's a great help side defender, but when it comes down to banging with Florida's bigs down low, I feel like that's a place where, especially since Florida has a stable of guys, they can just keep throwing fresh guys at him. I think it's a place you can potentially get overwhelmed a little bit, and he's still going to get his offensively, but it's a tough spot for him to be in. And then, I mean, Walter Clayton is the guy I would want the most in this tournament. If it comes down to 2 minutes left, it's a one-possession game, he's the guy I want the most on my team.
No doubt.
It's not even a question. He just seems to always be able to hit the big shot and push Florida over the top. I will say, you mentioned Florida has started slow a lot this tournament, and I don't think this is necessarily a game where they can afford to do it. Could be wrong, obviously. I mean, we saw they were down 10 on the Plains and then, ran away with it. But they've really not had a good first half as a whole in this tournament, and that's just not a spot you want to be in against this Auburn team that does know how to win and could get it done in that regard. We do have to think about Broome's injury, if he's going to be 100% or not. He's definitely going to play. But I just don't know if the pain is going to kind of affect his level of play or not. But yeah, I like Florida here. Sanders?
Have we heard anything new about the extent of his injury? It was an elbow hyperextension?
Elbow hyperextension. There's no structural damage.
Okay.
It's just sore.
Okay.
And it hurts.
Yeah.
And so it just comes down to pain management and where he is with that. So, I mean, all in all, a good sign.
Yeah.
But
watching him play on Sunday, was that when they played their last game?
Yes.
He was very clearly, his right arm was not feeling, he's lefty, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's, I guess, good. At least it's not his dominant arm, so maybe it's not going to hurt his shooting and control quite as much. Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with both y'all. Florida right now, Janai Broome is actually playing very good basketball right now.
He is.
Was very concerned towards the end of the regular season. When did we have our Player of the Year conversation? It was still a couple weeks left in the season.
That was 2 weeks left in SEC play.
Yeah, and so we had that conversation, and then Janai Broome goes on to drop 2 single-digit performances. They lose in the semifinals of the SEC. They don't win a game, right?
No, they beat Ole Miss.
They beat Ole Miss and then lost to Tennessee.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so they didn't. They had a pretty underwhelming SEC tournament. And so yeah, I was pretty nervous about Broome. I was as low as on Auburn as anybody. I mean, I picked them to lose every round of the tournament, including I didn't really pick them to lose in the round of 64, but I thought it was going to happen for a second. It was close.
It was close. Very close.
And then picked them to lose to Creighton, picked them to lose to everyone they played, Michigan State. And I'm going to pick them to lose again. I'm going to have to go with Florida. Florida still continues to play very good basketball, carried by the guys you talked about. So I don't think it's going to be sad for Broome to go out this way. He's had a long career, and it's been
I won't be sad.
Not going to be sad.
He'll be sad.
It will be. It's going to be sad for him, and but I think it's going to be the end of his career, and then we're going to have to deal with Baker-Mazara for one more year.
Yeah, he will cry.
Yeah,
for sure.
I like where your mind's headed there, JP.
Yeah, I was going to say I think
in.
the X factor in this game is going to be Tahad Pettiford.
Completely agree.
He's been excellent in the tournament. He was not great against Michigan State, but he was great against Michigan. He was great against Creighton. He scored 20. He scored 20 plus in both of those games. He has been their big shot maker and the big shot taker. And for a freshman, it's been very inspiring to see out of someone. And he's had a ton of big games this season. The thing for him is, I mean, he had two of his bigger games were against A&M and Alabama, and they lost those games. But he's the X factor. How will he play on the big stage in the Final Four as a freshman? For being their third leading scorer somehow. Chad Baker-Mazara is their second leading scorer, by the way.
Yeah.
But being their third leading scorer, he's going to be very important, especially when Baker-Mazara is thrown out in the first 3 minutes.
Or throwing an elbow or something.
Yeah. Miles Kelly and Denver Jones are going to be big defensively, and Pettiford might get picked apart. But if he can score 20 plus, Auburn's got a good chance in this game. Big thing about Auburn is their front runners.
Yeah.
If they get out to a lead early, it didn't happen in the Florida game, but they can. Well, I mean, we saw that clearly, in my opinion, in the Michigan State game. It was 8-10 through the first media timeout, and then right out of the second media timeout, Auburn goes on a 12-0 run, and they're up 14, and then it just stayed double digits pretty much the entire game. If they can do that against Florida's way more high powered than Michigan State. But that's their MO. That's how they'll win this game. I don't think this is a team that's going to come behind on Florida.
I agree.
I think Florida's more likely to do it on Auburn.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I feel like not if either team gets out to a lead early, I don't feel super confident about either team catching up. Because as good as Florida is, Auburn is still, the number one overall seed. If Auburn gets out to a large lead, like early in the first half,
I mean, you don't obviously love your odds because it's Auburn and they're very good, but we have seen in multiple games this year, even thinking about the Mississippi State-Florida game, where Florida just suddenly decides to hit this next gear, and next thing you know, they've gone on a 20-3 run, and it doesn't even look like they're really playing against anybody. It's like they're playing 5-0. Like, there's not even another team. They're in the gym just having fun. And so I think that's a fear playing Florida. It's just that, like, at any point, they're just going to decide to, I don't even know what to call it, but it's almost like they transcend, like, their, like, cap of how good they can play, and
Yeah, Coach Golden just claps a little bit stronger, and it really kind of revs up the guys.
they take off.
I expect, a ton of over-under on claps is probably 125.5.
Taking the over.
For Coach Golden. I'm taking the over there. And then the line for Bruce Pearl is these little things, the arm throws at players, at refs, at any of that. That line's probably around 15.5.
I'm taking the under there.
I think I take the under there as well.
We're in sync over here.
I disagree, Sanders. I think Florida has shown numerous times in big moments and in small moments that they can just take over a game, whether they're behind or not. I mean, they were down 10 against Auburn, and then we're up 20 within 20 minutes of game time. They did it against Texas Tech. Shout out CT. Rest in peace to the Red Raiders. But this is a team that I think can just take over. Now, I kind of feel that they have a little bit of Alabama to them, that maybe there's just going to be a game where they just don't do it.
Can't hit shots, yeah.
And it's definitely possible for it to happen in the Final Four. But I think, I don't know, the way they play defensively, they're better than Bama. I think their defense can keep it close enough, even if Auburn got out to an early lead, and they can turn defense into offense.
Yeah.
Very
I
well.
mean, I even said earlier on the show, like I just said, like we both just said, they can take off at any point. They have had a lot of slow starts this tournament, and I don't necessarily know if their offense has been clicking as good as it has overall throughout this season. So I definitely wouldn't want to start slow again. I mean, obviously, you never want to start slow. I mean, who wants to be in a double-digit hole at some point? But they definitely could just, climb out of it seemingly effortlessly at any point. Sanders,
is it right? I saw something that said Todd Golden is a former GA or assistant under Bruce Pearl. Is that right? Can y'all?
No, I think I saw the same thing, but I don't have any like fact check or anything like that.
I don't think it was yesterday. Yesterday was April 1st, and so I don't know what to believe. But I think that it was a couple of days ago, so I'm kind of assuming it was true.
Yeah, but I don't know. And I mean, going back to the Tahad Pettiford point about him being just a freshman, he's not really shown that yet, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So props to him. Obviously, could pop up at any point. But Auburn is going to need somebody to hit big shots for them to win this game, because I guarantee Florida is going to hit big shots themselves. So you have to go big shot for big shot with them. And so Auburn is really going to need him to do that. I don't really see Miles Kelly or Denver Jones doing that. They could, I guess, but Tahad's kind of the clear pick to be the man to step up, as he has in this tournament already, and hit those shots. He's a good player. All right. All three of us are on Florida.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to the other side? Do you have any other thoughts here? You look like you may, JP.
JP's bets of the week, take the over, and I'm going to put a considerable amount of dollars on Florida to cover 2.5.
Okay.
In
All
my
right.
opinion.
I think that's fair. Should be. I'm gonna say it should be a good game. I feel like more often than not, these games can flop.
I think out of the two, this will be the best game.
Yeah.
I agree. And speaking of the other game, we'll hop over to the other side. It's Duke versus Houston. A contrast in programs, a contrast in styles. Houston wants to play slow. They're going to find guys to stay in the program, and they're going to have good continuity from year to year and good experience. And Duke is just your team that's going to pour in talent, and it's going to leave fast, and they're going to replace it as fast as they can. They're going to replace it as fast as it leaves. They're not really ever going to have a talent drop-off. I don't know. I mean, I'm interested to see how this one goes. I have a pretty hard read on this game, and it's that Houston's going to slow the game down or try to slow the game down and play their pace. And I think I mentioned this on the last show, but I don't know if that's really going to phase Duke. I think Duke is just going to be like, okay, we'll play your pace. We have as many shot makers as you do, if not more. We can play in low shot clock, late shot clock situations and find ways to score. And then we're just as good of a defensive team as you. We're really long. We're way longer than – Houston's not a big team. They play big, but they have no one like Kamal Malawak on their team.
Definitely.
I think their tallest rotation guy is 6'8". And so I think they're going to absorb Houston's kind of punch and be willing to play kind of a grittier, slower game and just be better at it than Houston is. And they'll probably take their chances to run. If they get a turnover, they'll get out in transition, and we'll see that. But I don't love Houston at all in this game. Similar with Alabama, right? Houston's a great three-point shooting team, but I don't see any reason why Duke's not going to be able to limit that and shut that down with the length they have and whatnot. So I'm pretty heavily Duke here. Do we have a spread, JP?
Spread's 4.5.
Yeah.
I believe it was 5.5 when we last talked on Sunday. But yeah, no, Houston doesn't have the size to match up with Duke, in my opinion. You are correct. Their two tallest rotation players are 6'8".
That's what I thought.
And Juwan Roberts and Joseph Tugler. Yeah, I really like. I agree that Houston's going to play their pace. They are the 360th fastest pace in the country. For context, there's 364 teams in NCAA Division I basketball.
Thank you for that.
So I don't expect Kelvin Sampson to change it up. I do expect though Duke to just run them off the floor. Like I really think Duke is going to fly, especially on steals, blocks, which they're going to get a ton of. They do that a ton. I think they're going to just run straight back down the floor and get easy baskets that way. And I think, when you're trying to beat a team that's really stinking good, it's limiting those. It's making them make the tough shots that they can make, but, they're going to make it at a lot lower percentage than they are a layup from 2 feet from the basket. If Houston's going to win this game, they're going to have to rely on their defense and force Duke to make tough shots.
Sure.
Which I just don't expect them to do. I think Duke's going to get what they want. Houston's the number one defense, but Duke is the number one offense at 130 offensive rating.
Historical offense.
Yes, historical. And Kim Pom, these are the top 4 teams in Kim Pom, but in terms of net rating, Duke is just leaps and bounds better than these 3 teams, a 3-point difference in net rating. I really expect Duke to just kind of I expect them to destroy Houston.
It's scary because I feel like it's like I know Houston is really good, so it feels like I'm discrediting Houston and giving them no chance. And I kind of am, to be honest. And that feels really wrong to do because Houston is very good. But I just trust this Duke team so much, and I know they're young, but I just don't really think that matters. I don't know. I heard someone, I don't remember who it was now, and I wish I could, talking about comparing this Duke team with the Zion Duke team. And the comparison they made, and I'm just hear your thoughts on this, JP and Sanders, was like, sure, that Duke team with Zion had 3 great players, and they could kind of get theirs.
Who were they, just for the audience who doesn't know that?
Yeah, it's Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, and Cam Reddish were kind of the 3 guys on that team.
All currently NBA players?
Cam Reddish is more.
Cam Reddish is
he's
a free
bouncing
agent
around
right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
He's actually a favorite to go to the Guangdong Tigers right now.
Yeah, his
There are betting odds on that.
his NBA career may be over largely. It is over largely. He may stick around for a couple more years, but he was good in college. I mean, he was highly
He's
rated. He was
exceptional.
great. He was a good shooter. He was their best shooter
Yeah.
on that team.
He was their big shot taker and maker.
Yeah. But this Duke team feels a lot more connected and together as a team while having that same talent level that they did. Kamon Malawak, I'm getting higher and higher on him by the day. He may be number 3 on my draft big board. He's played basketball like 4 years, but he just is. He's a shot eraser in the paint. He can run a little bit for his size. It's not great, but he can get there. He catches lobs very easily. He's efficient. He has a bit of a 3-point shot. Doesn't look terrible. That could progress.
He's no Guy Chol, but
Well, yeah. Mississippi State legend Guy
Future
Chol,
legend.
future legend Guy Chol. But I don't know. We'll kick it over to you, Sanders. 'cause
Malawak is he in the 6 foot range, or is he?
he's 7'2".
7'2".
I mean, he's
Okay.
huge.
Okay.
And he plays like that, and he knows how to. I mean, he just gets everywhere. And I mean, him and Cooper Flagg are just erasing shots at the rim.
it's
You get nothing easy against this Duke team, and I understand you don't really get anything easy against this Houston team either. But comparing them to 2 offenses,
Yeah.
I just think Duke is going to be able to create and find ways to score way better than this Houston team is. And then going back to the pace thing, and then sorry, I know we've not let you talk yet,
No,
Sanders, but
I don't have a whole lot to say, so keep going.
if Houston gets down, they're cooked.
oh yeah.
Because then they can't play slow, and they're going to play right into Duke's hands. Houston needs this to stay like a 7 to 5 point game the whole time.
Yeah, this needs to I mean, somehow for Houston it has to play like the Tennessee game.
Yeah.
Where they get out to the early lead and the Duke just struggles to shoot the entire game. But no, Malawak is, man, it is so impressive for given his size and how little basketball he plays.
He looks so natural out there.
It's insane. Like, you would expect a guy like that to just be constantly in foul trouble, to be biting on pump fakes, to just be fouling smaller guards when they come into the paint. But he just doesn't. He's so impressive with that. He's tied with Cooper Flagg leading blocks per game. They both have 1.3 blocks per game. Both of them are just, I mean, they are elite defenders. And the big thing for them too, I've talked about Cooper Flagg a ton. Malawak has a big motor too.
Yeah.
You don't expect like
The whole team does, realistically.
Oh yeah, I
mean-
agree. But like he competes every minute he's out there defensively, and then he's setting all these screens and he's rolling to the rim and he's catching countless lobs. He's very impressive, a very impressive player.
Where did
For a university that's had a ton of really good centers, he's up there.
so he's only been playing basketball for 4 years. What's kind of his,
He's from Cameroon, I believe.
and so is
I could be. I don't want to. Yeah, check it. I don't want to get the
he's a
country wrong.
freshman, so he's 18. It's not
South Sudan.
South
Okay.
Sudan. I apologize to come on, because he'll definitely see this.
Yeah, for sure.
You were saying, Sanders?
No, I 100% agree. It is, this Duke team has been very fun to watch. I also am really excited to kind of see the Houston and Duke have very different programs. Like Jack said, one is all about bringing in elite talent and it's there for a year and then you just replace it the next year. One is about developing talent. It is still, they are 2 programs that in this era of college basketball kind of have similar approaches of getting their guys. Duke just tends to get better guys, and then they don't have to develop them as much. They still have a very good program of developing.
Yeah.
Houston gets their guys, brings them and develop them. You look at other schools like Auburn and Florida, who, I mean, I'm just looking at the post from a week and a half ago where Auburn's got 4 starters who are transfers. Florida has, are they 4 starters as well, I think, transfers. And then you look at Duke is 4 of their starters are their guys, and they're since freshmen, and then Houston is 3. So it's really cool to see 2 different, or, on each side of the bracket, you have the Auburn and Florida, which is 8 or 9 guys who haven't been there. And then you have the other side where it's all of the guys who have been at their schools and kind of competing against each other. I think that's really cool to see. those teams, Duke and Houston, rewarded with the way they built their programs, kind of make it to the Final Four on the backs of those guys who've been there and who represent their programs. So that's fun to watch as well.
Sure. I mean, talking about Duke being like they lose so much talent and they replace it. That is, obviously that's the case this year, but this is still like a special Duke team. This is a very talented Duke team. They're typically not this talented. I mean,
Yeah.
the wealth of talent they have on their roster is insane even for Duke. So that's interesting. JP, I'm going to give you a tough task in our eyes anyway. The avenue for Houston to win this game is what?
I like I said earlier, it's one of the avenues is it's got to go the way the Tennessee game went, where
Yeah.
Tennessee or Duke just shoots terribly. But this game has to stay in the 60s, the very low 70s. You need Cooper Flagg to play bad.
Yeah.
I think a big thing that could potentially help them is, and I jokingly said this about the Alabama Duke game, is like just go at Cooper Flagg early, and I jokingly said someone should just try and like hard foul Cooper Flagg in the first 3 minutes. I'm not saying for Houston to do that. I think you go at him early and see if you can get a foul call.
Yeah.
If you can get Flagg 2 fouls in those first 5 minutes and he doesn't play the rest of the second half, I
First
think
half.
they're in a much better, or the first half,
Yeah.
I think they're in a much better spot, because then they can really stay in this game a lot better. I mean, Flagg averages 19 points a game, and how good he is offensively and defensively, the less he's on the court, the better.
Yeah.
To say the least.
What's crazy is Duke is so talented that most teams, if you said, if you get their best player in foul trouble and he doesn't play for 15 minutes of the first half, like, you're going to win. And with Duke, it's like, if you do that, you stand a chance.
Yeah.
Like, that just speaks to how impressive this Duke basketball team is, that you can take out the best player and arguably the best player in the country, and that gives you a chance.
I think that's the unique advantage that Duke has, is that, I mean, if Flagg got in foul trouble, he's not, he reclassified. He's not even supposed to be in
Yeah.
college
that's
right now. He's
insane.
supposed to be in high school. And Duke can then lean on the other players. I mean, Concanoople will play really well, but Tyrese Proctor and Zion James are both
Sion James.
are both heavily veteran players that have a lot of experience.
Yep.
Tyrese Proctor specifically for this Duke team, that, like, if you take out Flagg, I don't think the team's just gonna crumble. Like, they're just, all right, we'll just lean on our leaders and we'll keep going to work.
They won the ACC without him.
Yeah,
Which is, I mean, the ACC, you can argue about how good a conference it is, but the team did not crumble.
Still got it done though. Yeah.
Very much rose to the occasion. So,
Agreed.
I think Houston's just gonna have to get lucky.
yeah.
I
The
think
other
attack Flagg early, get him in foul trouble. That's like the only thing I would say.
Sure. The other thing I want to throw out there is Houston does shoot about 40% from 3 on the season. They're a great shooting team. I said earlier, I think Duke is about the best team in the country at making good shooting teams not be able to get their shots. But at the end of the day, a lot of times good offense beats good defense. So there's always just a chance that Houston does have shooters and they just keep making their shots. And it gets wacky in that regard, and we see, a non-Houston score from them. But the odds of that are just pretty small, realistically. But just trying to find an avenue for Houston to win, that is something I could see. I feel like it's a clean sweep on both sides. We all three have Duke. We all three have Florida.
Yeah.
It kind of felt going into the tournament that this kind of felt like a collision course, honestly. And we're not there yet. They both have to play one more game. But it just does kind of feel like it felt inevitable going into the tournament in a lot of ways, and it still feels inevitable sitting here less than a week out from the championship game.
Inevitable.
Or a
is
week out,
a great
exactly,
word.
right?
Yeah, week out.
Yeah.
What? Championship is on Wednesday?
Or sorry, no,
It's not Monday. We're less than a week out.
I was about to say.
It is Wednesday.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know why, because we don't even record on Monday. We record on Sunday for it to go out Monday, but it's been a constant struggle of mine to say it's Monday when it's Wednesday and vice versa.
Now I'm confused.
But it is Wednesday, so less than a week out. I think that's about it for our.
Yeah.
I was gonna say one final thing.
Sure.
I know you said it. It's no shame for Houston to lose this game, and the media is already. You can already see it. They're gonna tear them apart. Kelvin Sampson is terrible. Fire him.
Can't win at the slow pace.
I watched the Alabama Duke game with Alabama fans on Saturday. There's no shame. I told them the same thing. There's no shame losing to this team. They are one of the best college basketball teams we've ever seen. and they play like that. And like Jack said, I mean, Alabama made 25 threes in the Sweet 16. They made 8 in the Elite 8 and shot 25% from 3.
Yeah.
So Houston can shoot it well. You better make some tough contested shots because they did that against Bama.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like no shame in losing to this team.
Oh,
whatsoever.
100%. And I mean, Houston's shown that they're a program of consistency at this point, so they'll just be back.
Mhm.
Kelvin Sampson is not going to stop trying. All right, enough of the Duke glazing. We can move on to our next segment.
Yeah.
Good. All right. We're heading into my team and player of the week, or my Winning Order Chicken Dinner and Cock of the Walk. Of the week is kind of relative. I do try and confine it to of the week, but a lot of times it is a player I just want to give a shout out to, or a team I want to give a shout out to. So we'll start with my Cock of the Walk, Nikola
I had
Jokic.
him out of order. Continue.
Oh, I apologize.
No, go Cock of the Walk. You got it.
Show notes has him in my order, but we chill.
You got it.
Yeah, just throw you on the bus there. I apologize. Anyway, Nikola Jokic, 61, 10, and 10 last night in a double overtime loss because Russell Westbrook did what he does and smokes a layup on one end and then fouls the three-point shooter on the other end with 0.1 seconds left, and he hits his free throws to win the game for Minnesota. But the season Jokic is having is incredible. It's like the past 3 or 4 seasons he's had, honestly. He's averaging 30, 13, and 10, shooting 58% from the field and 42% from 3, 80% from the line, which is also very good, but just not quite as good as the other numbers. But it's not even that he's having a great season. Nikola Jokic would be my MVP this year if I had to vote. I know Shea's been fantastic, but valuable. This Denver team is nothing without Jokic. Looking at their their net ratings, they have a 5.5 net rating with Jokic on the court, which is top 4 in the NBA. And then without Jokic on the court, they have a negative 4.3. For context, the Raptors have the same net rating, a negative 4.3, and they're 20 games under 500. Now, obviously, you're going to play worse without your best player on the floor. That's how it goes. But that gap is just insane. I mean, he just carries this team night in, night out, does what he does. He had a 30-20-20 game a couple weeks ago, which is just ridiculous.
First one ever, right? First one ever. Was that not the record he broke?
It might have been the first one ever. I just don't remember. If it's not the first one ever, he joined like one other player.
He broke a record. I don't remember.
I'm pretty
that
sure it
game.
was the first one ever.
So 2020 first ever.
But he would be my MVP. I think he is having the greatest peak of any center in NBA history. I can't say he's the best center in NBA history because his career's not over. But the peak he's had with the championships and the MVPs and the statistical numbers he's putting up and the way he impacts the game is just unreal night in, night out. There's no way to stop him. You double him, he passes out the double because he's such a good passer. He scores effortlessly. He's shooting 42% from 3. It's just ridiculous. So shout out to Nikola Jokic. He's my cock of the walk.
Are you saying it's that and from a statistical standpoint?
What? That he's
That-
the best
Having the best peak as a center.
Hmm?
Are you saying
impact standpoint. I'm not like comparing numbers to numbers because you're like who would you say is the greatest peak?
I would say Kareem. He
Sure.
changed the way. I mean, he literally got dunking outlawed.
That is insane.
He's the second leading scorer
Wait.
to the GOAT
He got dunking outlawed.
in college basketball. Dunking was made illegal because Lou Alcindor, Kareem, was the only one that could do it and did it so much it was just overpowered, and they literally outlawed
They
dunking.
nerfed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to.
Crazy.
I would Kareem is still like the GOAT center in my opinion. I'm just looking at peak.
And championships, it was plural when you said it. He's only won
Yes,
one.
he only has won one. So championship.
And in the playoffs, besides that, he's not really been outstanding, at least from a wins standpoint, in my opinion. He's made only one other conference finals
Sure.
outside of the year they went to the finals. But sure. Who would you have voted for MVP last year, Luka or Jokic?
It's tough because I don't have their stats in front of me. But
What do you value more, wins or numbers?
last year I probably would have to go Luka. Just because, I mean, a great statistical season. And then obviously I know Luka made the finals run and just absolutely. I mean, Luka's a playoff riser. He gets to the playoffs and plays his best basketball. When he seemingly doesn't really have another gear to find, he finds it. But just watching the game, and I am a big numbers guy. So obviously, like stats do matter. Don't get me wrong. But the way Jokic just impacts winning, and his ability to just like, and there's just no stopping him. He's inevitable. I mean, I said it about the Duke team. So
All right, then here I'll give you some numbers, but they're blind.
okay.
26, 12, and 9.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Second
26 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists a game.
12 or second seed in the West. 34, 10, and 9. Fifth seed in the West. Who are you voting for?
Probably.
Sorry, go give me the first stat line again.
26, 12, and 9.
Against 34.
34, 9, or 10, and 9.
I mean, I'm taking the guy that's fifth in the West.
Okay.
That's Luka.
Then you're allowed to vote for Jokic this year.
Yeah.
That's credit to Nick Wright. He's the one that made this argument, but I'm going to steal it from him. I don't think you can say that you would vote for Jokic this year if you were going to vote for Jokic last year.
I think that's fair.
Just because from a standing standpoint, the Thunder
Are
are exceptional compared to the Nuggets
Sure.
wise. Shea's my MVP right now. I think he's the horse of that team. And I think Jokic is unfortunately going to get a little bit of the LeBron treatment of just
voter fatigue happens
Yeah.
in the
It
NBA.
happened to Aaron Donald in the NFL. I mean, Aaron Donald was screwed out of multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards because he'd already won it so many times.
Sure.
It happens.
It definitely
very
does.
Regularly.
And when I say Jokic is my MVP, I definitely mean that. If Shea won, I would not view it a robbery or anything like nearly like that. They're both very deserving, and I think it's very close. I just do think when team wins get overvalued a little bit in MVPs, in my opinion. It does matter. I'm never going to vote a guy for MVP that his team is in the playoffs because you were valuable to your team, but you weren't able to get them to the playoffs. I don't know if that makes sense. Like clearly, like really didn't actually matter that much.
Yeah.
So he would be my MVP. But I just want to give him a shout out. I mean, he's just so fun to watch as well. What he does.
He's exceptional. He takes over a game. He kind of is unstoppable. Defensively, the way I would defend him is I'd let him score 60
And just stop everyone else.
and just try to stop everyone else and keep his assist numbers down. The Nuggets, that's the way they've built that team is they run the Jamal Murray Nikola Jokic two-man game. That's almost unstoppable.
Jamal Murray can be pumpkin sometimes. Though.
Yeah. And I would let Murray shoot and let him shoot his jumper a ton, but that's almost unstoppable. But the key with the Nuggets is can you take away the three-point shooting, specifically Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon. If you can keep those, even Westbrook. I mean, let Westbrook shoot. I would. This is coming from a guy who was a big Westbrook guy.
He's just not the same.
He's just he loves to shoot threes for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It never makes any sense, but yeah, I'm fine with the Jokic shout out.
Okay.
I just
No, I
wanted
appreciate
to-
the pushback. I mean, it is a good question, and I mean, I threw some pretty big claims around, and I don't take that lightly. So yeah, shout out Jokic.
Not the biggest claims we've heard today, Jack. Off the show.
I think I made bigger claims than
Crazy.
what was made off the show. But
I agree.
saying someone had the greatest peak at their position all time is a huge claim. Anyway, shout out Nikola Jokic.
I think it's debatable potentially.
Sure. I mean, I do think Jokic is going to struggle to catch Kareem because Jokic had a slower start to his career,
Yeah.
and that's going to hurt counting stats and whatnot.
I mean, I didn't know who Jokic has been in the league how long?
I believe 9 years.
Yeah.
I didn't know who he was till like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Which, like, I'm not the biggest NBA guy,
Sure.
but he definitely. I mean, I knew who LeBron was, I knew who Steph was, like, knew who all these Westbrook, like, all these big names. At the time.
13 years.
He's
Yeah.
been in the league for 13.
And it took him a
years.
couple years to really get establish even really like a starter, let alone like a
Was he?
a great
He's only
player.
played 10 years.
Where was he?
He's only played 10 years though.
What were the other 3 years?
He didn't play.
Yeah.
He was just developing?
He played professionally outside the NBA. He's been in the NBA for 10 years. I apologize.
Okay.
No, you're good.
When was he drafted? What, like, where in the draft?
Second round, middle of a Taco Bell commercial is the famous thing.
Yes.
Like they weren't even like really live
That's
when he was
crazy.
drafted.
It was the middle of a Taco Bell commercial.
That's insane.
It is insane.
back in 20.
one of the craziest stories of all time. How good he's become, kind of out of nowhere. We'll get into NBA talk more, just in general, later on the line as we get closer and closer to playoff basketball, which is really exciting.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. We'll definitely have a full show dedicated to just playoff preview and whatnot. So we can talk more about kind of the Nuggets and the Thunder and Shea and Jokic there. But I want to move into my winner chicken dinner of the week.
I was going to say playoff basketball, as someone who's not been the biggest NBA fan, because the regular season gets a lot of judgment because teams kind of mess around.
The regular season sucks.
The regular season.
That's from an NBA guy.
Okay. From an NBA guy, the regular season sucks. As a new getting exposed to the NBA recently, the playoffs are very, very cool because you get to see teams try because it matters, and then also you get to see you get to see variance from game 1 to game 2 as teams adjust.
In-game adjustments or game-to-game adjustments are
Right.
fire.
Game-to-game adjustments are very different than the in-game adjustments you see. It's a very different game of basketball.
And I hope I'm right. I don't want to get my expectations up and have them shattered. But this should be a great NBA playoff, especially in the West, how it's setting up. Just a ton of great teams, and the storylines. NBA kind of got a lifeline with the Luka trade in a lot of ways, honestly. Kind of injected some life into this season. JP over here still can't believe it. Why would they trade Luka?
I wish we had been doing the podcast when that happened, because we could have done an emergency podcast and JP would have just sat in silence.
He would have said
45
nothing.
minutes.
But why would they trade Luka? Anyway, moving on. Winner chicken dinner. We're my team of the week. We're moving on to headed over to the MLB. The Dodgers are 7-0 to start the season. They're just great. I'm a Braves fan, so the Braves have played them
Twice.
They're playing again tonight. The Braves are not off to a good start. They're 0-6 so far.
Only team left without a win.
Only
Correct.
winless team left. Yep. Thanks for bringing that up, Sanders.
I was just letting the viewers know.
Sure. Anyway,
Couldn't relate.
watching those two games is just kind of the Dodgers got a lead. It's over. Or, just we've only scored 2 runs. That's not going to be enough to beat the Dodgers. They're just a wagon.
I'll give you the stat. They're 1-34 with runners in scoring position.
That is
Atlanta?
the Braves. That
This
is, and that is where the issues stem from. Is
One for 34.
1-for-34 with runners in scoring position.
That sounds familiar.
and we're batting
Very familiar.
137 as a team.
Yeah.
You're batting 137.
Yep, as a team.
Acuna's
That's
not
not
back.
in runner scoring position. Acuna's not back. We got plenty of good hitters on the
Acuna's
team,
not back.
and our offseason acquisition did get busted for steroids.
Yeah, that was tough.
Um,
Jerks and Profar.
But we're getting
Took
off.
him on the Padres.
Yeah,
That should be a.
that's Padres
Yeah,
culture
he
right there. He
definitely-
was working out with
True.
Fernando Tatis's dad. Wait, that should have been the red flag right
Yeah.
there. That's where he
There
said
you go.
he figured it all out. He gave him some of the stuff that Tatis was using. They weren't actually busted for the same thing.
I still think Tatis was. I think he took it for his wrist injury.
That's the biggest lie
Got
ever.
framed. Got framed.
No, that's the biggest. I don't care if they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Especially, Jerkson Profar was doing something that he was saying something that helps pregnant or formerly pregnant ladies rebuild their placenta or something like that. You can't be I accidentally took that. That's ridiculous. Anyway,
He knew exactly what he was doing.
this is
Just
not
tough-
a this is not a
tough for the
Braves
Braves.
segment. It's a Dodgers segment. Talked about him on the preview show.
We need a segment that's just your loser of the week, but it's got to be chicken themed.
I've thought about having a loser of the week because that's honestly way easier to come up with
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
a winner of the week.
Point.
So my loser of the week, inaugural loser of the week, can be the Atlanta Braves.
If there are chicken themed names for that, please drop them in the comments because I'm kind of blanking.
But I don't really have much more to say. Freeman and Betts have both missed some times. It just doesn't matter. They spent the money to make this happen, but they spent it wisely, and they're going to reap the benefits for a couple years upcoming. So,
Isn't there some stat where they have 4 former MVPs on the team or something? It's
well, they have Betts and Freeman,
and Otani.
and Shohei, and then pitching staff wise,
They've
they
got
have Blake Snell, who's one, and they have Clayton Kershaw.
yeah.
They got the 2 Asians
Yeah, Roki
Yamamoto.
and Yamamoto.
and Sasaki and then Otani.
Yeah, you can't
That's
forget
a good
Otani.
team. That's a pretty good team.
It's a great team
And then they have Kershaw.
What's the record
who
for?
may not really start
Yeah,
because
exactly.
that's insane.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to. I think
He'll pitch when someone inevitably gets injured, but
what's the record for undefeated to start a season?
I can look it up.
Didn't it?
13-ish
It
is
was
what
a
I want to
team-
say.
Someone last year, it was one of the Marlins or the
Doubt it was the Marlins.
not the Marlins. It's
The Rays.
Rays. It was it's
It
yeah,
was the Rays.
Shout out Jake Mangum, by the
yeah,
way.
literally.
Um,
Why wasn't he the winner of chicken dinner?
He would have
Dude,
been the cock of the walk.
Yeah,
Cock
he
of the
would have
walk,
been the
thank
cock
you.
of the walk.
Absolute animal.
Because I'm
Game
just kind
one went 0 for 3, got on base once. Game 2 went 4 for 4 with 2 doubles, 2 stolen bases. Game 3, I think he went 3. He's been like 7 for 8 in his last 8 at bats. I mean, he's
Sure.
going absolutely sicko mode. So
Can't wait for it to flame out and people to realize why he hadn't made the majors until this point.
that's
but
a
we'll
wild
see.
take from you on a podcast sponsored by the University of Mississippi State.
I'm a big fan of numbers don't lie, and I trust the
He was-
Rays organization that has
He
been
was batting
great
like 400
and
in
other
minors.
stuff.
He was batting like
There's something called a quadruple A player, meaning they're really too good for the minors, but they're not good enough for the majors. And in my opinion, he's the classic version of that guy.
he just got a hit off of
Skeens,
Paul Skeens.
he did.
Yep.
A little reminiscent of Ichiro, just kind of reached out and slapped it between the third base and shortstop, but it hits a hit.
Got on base.
Good bat to ball skills.
It made me maybe you're right, and maybe we all will be let down in a couple weeks.
I could be so wrong. That's just my read on it.
Yeah, I would love the heart. I saw someone on Twitter say this, and I'm glad I'm not the only one that had the reaction. It kind of makes me sad because I'm like, dang, like I wish they called him up earlier because he's been hitting well in the minors this whole time.
Sure.
And it's like it's one of those things. Just like, did we just miss out on like an extra 3 to 5 years of Jake Mangum in the MLB because the Rays just sold?
Well, was
Maybe
he
we
with the
didn't.
Rays the whole time?
Yeah, he's been at the Rays
Okay,
for
that's
he,
what
was-
I-
he was
He's
in the
drafted
Mets.
by the
He was in the Mets
Yeah,
for a while.
but he's been at
He's
the
been
Rays,
at the Rays
for a minute.
while.
I mean, it's
There-
possible.
It was crazy. For a while, the Mets, they were never in the same tier, but in their system, never same division like AA single A, but in their system, they had Jake Mangum, the career SEC hits leader, an LSU outfielder who I can't remember his name, but he played at the same time, who was number 2 in career hits leader.
Duplantis or something
Yes,
like that.
Antoine Duplantis.
Yeah.
So they had
What
Jake
a pool,
Mangum,
man.
Antoine Duplantis, and Tim Tebow. And so it never happened, but people were praying that they would all end up in the same like part of the system and
Sure.
you'd have an outfield of SEC or career hits leader, second career hits leader, and Tim Tebow.
Shout out Tim Tebow for trying to play baseball. Didn't happen.
Another, you got Russell Wilson. There's a lot of them up there. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is. But
We're not to the point in the show where we should be descending into this madness.
I mean, that's relevant MSU sports news. Jake
Yeah.
Mangum is one of the most well-liked
He's an MSU
state
legend.
Bulldogs ever, I would say.
He's a pillar.
He's a pillar.
He's a legend.
I,
Pillar.
as a non-state fan, will not ascribe the title of MSU legend to anybody because I don't have that right.
Correct.
But y'all two can duke that out.
I don't
Anyway,
think we're duking it out over Jake Mangum. We both think he's an MSU legend.
he
we may
thinks
disagree about
he's a pillar.
I think he's a pillar.
But not a legend? Is
Well,
pillar above
pillar's
legend?
above legend.
Oh, I see. I kind of thought legend was how many tiers are?
I think pillar's about as high as you get.
Goat pillar
Yeah, well, that's
legend.
Ooh, okay. Oh,
The-
who's the MSU goat?
of baseball. I don't know.
Oh, of baseball.
Football would be Dak.
Yeah,
Who's the guy the place is named after?
Dooney Noble.
No, but isn't like the
Ron
performance?
Polk. Ron
yeah,
Polk?
yeah.
Yeah,
Would
He's a
he be
pillar.
the? He'd be
he's
a pillar.
definitely a pillar. I mean,
I don't know. You could debate.
Too long ago.
Historical.
We can
who's
move into
basketball. Basketball goat.
The basketball goat.
That maybe we should be a whole segment. Is like just the Mississippi State goats, pillars.
We
and
could
legends.
have a segment on
Well,
who's
well-
the pillars.
We'll put a
And then-
pin in that and come back to it
I
on
like
a
that.
future show,
I like that. That
and
could
we
be
can
fun.
move into Sanders' question of the week.
Oh yeah, Schubert.
Sanders, would you like to unveil that for us?
Yeah, I saw someone tweet a couple weeks ago, or not even a couple weeks ago, like a couple days ago, and said that Cooper Flagg is having the best one and done season of all time. And I sent that in our group chat with all of our friends, and we were all like, that is just not true. That is a wild take. So the question is, who has had the greatest one and done season of all time? For not the biggest basketball fans, I'm trying to be informative. Basketball, you are not allowed to go straight to the NBA out of high school. You're required to go to college.
Now you are.
However,
Now you are.
However, you are not required to stay until your junior year like you are in baseball or football. You can leave after one season and go like before your sophomore year. So, phrase one and done just applies to guys who go to college for a year and then go straight to the NBA. You've got guys like Anthony Davis, Zion Williamson, former state guys. Zion Williams?
You had it right.
Oh, y'all looked at me funny. Sorry. I panicked.
I was waiting
you've
for
got
you to mention a name.
former state guys like Reggie Perry and Robert Woodard were both one and dones. So, yeah, one and done. Who's had the greatest one and done season of all time?
Do you have an answer here, Sanders, or are you just, as a non-basketball guy, are you just presenting it to us to answer?
I mean, the one I would stand out to most to me would be Anthony Davis. They went not undefeated, but they had one of the greatest regular season records of all time. I mean, they competed in the SEC, won the championship. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my answer. I don't know a whole lot about college basketball because all I watched growing up was Mississippi State.
Yeah.
But Anthony Davis, I remember in college basketball. Like, that's how good he was.
That's a good opinion. Can't go wrong with that one.
Or what's his name? Unibrow? His nickname? Monobrow?
The brow.
The brow. The
Mhm.
brow.
Yeah. It is a monobrow, but the brow sounds a lot more intimidating than the monobrow because the monobrow sounds
Like from Phineas and Ferb, major
monogram.
Monogram.
But he does have a monobrow.
He has-
Anyway, monobrow just seems a little more like, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but like goofy, but like mean. Like it sounds like a diss, monobrow. Somehow the brow doesn't sound like a diss.
The brow.
Are you on the AD train?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this
Oh, good. JP's going to back up my opinion with some good arguments, so I can
This-
sit back and let him cook.
this is a two-person debate. I think if Flag were to win the championship, that's a requirement
Sure.
for a one-and-done player. He's got a chance to potentially be
Is
in this
it?
debate.
Does it have to be?
I think so.
With
Unless you lost on the buzzer beat or something.
yeah,
Or,
and you averaged like 30 or something
Yeah.
in college.
Yeah,
You would
I
have
was
to
just
put
trying
up
to think of-
insane.
If you had an outlier, a guy who like went and played for his hometown team, but they weren't like the team wasn't great, but I mean he just absolutely cooked.
I think you still have to make a deep run in March.
yeah, I mean,
to
then-
really have
then
an
we'll say
argument.
Ben Simmons is the best one
Yeah.
player of all time. Like,
It's like Zion doesn't even really have a case.
Yeah.
Because Zion didn't even make the Final Four.
and Zion also had an excellent team.
True.
But no, I think it's a two-man debate. It's Carmelo Anthony. Melo played for Syracuse, won the championship in 2003.
I'm on the Melo train. So you
yeah,
give,
okay. You can.
Okay, I'll give the Melo, and then you can give the AD because I completely agree. It's one of the two.
In my opinion, it's Anthony Davis because I mean, part of it's I didn't watch Melo because he was
Melo
his,
played before
his
I was
freshman
born.
year of college basketball was the year I was born.
Yeah.
He started playing college basketball 2 months after I was born. So I didn't get to see any of Melo's Syracuse season. Sorry. At least I imagine I did see it, but I didn't remember it because I was months old at the time. But it'd be Anthony Davis. He's, in my opinion, the most dominant collegiate basketball player I've ever seen. 14 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, 1 assist a game, 1 steal a game. Great numbers, right? Well, I'm missing one. 4.7 blocks
Ridiculous.
per game. He outblocked. I think he led. Well, he led the nation in blocks, but he outblocked multiple NCAA tournament teams like over the course of the season compared to every other.
Like he had more blocks himself
an entire
than
team,
the
yeah.
entire team.
Yeah.
I forget what the graphic was, but that one goes around on Twitter and Instagram all the time. But he was just insanely dominant, and in my opinion, he was on a team that like he was kind of the focal point. All those 6 guys went to the NBA, but like the second best player on this team is Michael K. Gilchrist, and we all know Michael K. Gilchrist wasn't necessarily the greatest player of all time.
Didn't necessarily pan out in the NBA.
Yeah,
that's for
he,
sure.
he was okay in college basketball, but 4.7 blocks. I mean, this guy just dominated collegiate basketball. Kentucky was 38-2 that year, 16-0 in the SEC. Not the same kind of SEC that we have now, but still impressive running the table. Their only 2 losses were out of conference before SEC play. In my opinion, it's Anthony Davis. But let's hear the debate for Melo.
Yeah. I also did not see Melo play. I wasn't even born yet. And then I was 7, 8-ish when AD played. So honestly, I don't really remember that much of AD either. Now I've seen a bunch of AD, in the NBA. his peak years were. I don't remember a ton of Melo's kind of peak years in the NBA. But Melo averaged 22, 10, and 2 his 1 year in college, and won the ring. We said earlier that's kind of a requirement. Only had one other NBA guy on the team, and Hakeem Warwick, who was kind of a career bench guy in the NBA. Played a while, was productive, but he got drafted like 15th or something 2 years later. The team wasn't even ranked until season 10 or week 10 of the week 10 of the season. So they weren't even really heralded going into the season. It was just kind of, it was Melo, and he just kind of drug them along. They got to March. He averaged 26 and 10 in the Final Four. They win the ring. Just insane shot making all over. Big shot maker, big shot taker. Also, I feel like a big thing with like the best one and done college player is the like popularity of the person and kind of the cultural icon that they bring, and he definitely had that. He was a huge deal. He was must-see TV. He just played with the swagger, the aura these days. He was aura farming on the court, some would say. But just an insanely dominant season. Just huge for the Syracuse basketball program as well. And I think it's kind of like a 1A, 1B thing, but I went Melo just because I just feel like the program he was at and the team he was on and bringing that team to winning a finals or a NCAA ring is huge.
Yeah.
So what do we think about Cooper Flag dominates Houston. Well, I don't know. Cooper Flag wins the championship. Where does that put him compared to guys like AD and Melo?
I think, and he's right there. I don't know if I can give you an answer right now just because it's not happened. If he dominates, he's definitely right there. I think for me, I'm just a Melo guy in general. So, since I can make the argument for Melo, I'm going to go with Melo, if that makes sense. He's just, the one I probably like the best out of the three.
That's fair.
But he is the only other. I don't think anyone else really has an argument here, unless I'm forgetting somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I am a young, relative to the sport of basketball, how long it's been around, I'm young. So I could be missing somebody, I guess. But I think if he won, he'd be the only other person to really have a true argument to be made.
Yeah, I don't think he has enough, though, to make
Sure.
that argument. I think it'll depend on the amount of awards he wins.
If he doesn't win National Player of the Year, that would hurt as well.
Yeah, he's got to win that to have a
Did
chance.
AD and Melo both win it?
AD won it. It wasn't around for Melo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Melo was only an All-American. That was really the only award that was given. AD won pretty much every single award he could possibly win that year. But I just Flag is one of the best college basketball players I've ever seen. But I don't think he's got enough to overtake those two. He doesn't score more than Melo. He doesn't have any more rebounds than Anthony Davis. He obviously wasn't as impactful as Anthony Davis was defensively, although he's really, really good defensively. I just don't think he has enough. If he dropped 50 in both of the the Final Four and the championship, there might be a conversation to be had. I kind of would like to avoid being prisoner of the moment.
That's fair.
And having too much recency bias in it. But then again, I also don't want to be on the flip side where it's like, oh, Jordan's the GOAT, when we should just go ahead and admit that LeBron's the GOAT.
Amen.
So, I don't know. He's got a chance, but I don't think he's got enough.
It's kind of something you have to sit on for a couple years and return to as after you kind of really soak in the season and it once again it sits there for a couple years and then you can come and look back and be like, here's what he did, and how much of a cultural icon was he.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the awards, look at the stats, compare it. It's just tough.
My question was going to be if Flag ties AD's season average in blocks by getting 100 blocks in the Final Four.
If he does that, I'd give it to him.
I would give it to him. Yeah,
That's insane.
I would assume
AD had 100 and you said he averaged 4 point what?
4.7.
4.7 over 35?
Over 40 games.
40 games. So 188 blocks.
He used to race shots.
And I
I
mean,
need to find
Flag
that
is a
image.
good defender who he blocks shots, and you notice that is something to his game. He's only got 47.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how the difference between Cooper Flag, who's a good defender and influences the game with his block shots, averages 1.3 a game, and like
There it
AD,
is.
who gets almost 5 a game.
I found the image I was looking for. At one point in the season, this was I assume nearly mid-season.
He'd block more shots than Duke had as an entire team. Just
Yeah.
kind of throw a big team on that graphic out, or Michigan State as well.
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is positionally. I mean, AD was a true center in college. I guess he decides he wants to play the 4 now.
Yes,
But
I felt like he was a 4, and he was listed as a forward, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Yes, he was a forward.
he was listed as 4. But even era-wise, it was a less spacious league, so he spent a lot more time in the paint than necessarily Cooper Flag does. Regardless, I mean, there's not really a comparison. 188 block shots is ridiculous no matter where you play.
Another thing about basketball, just as I think we're wrapping up the show. So, did y'all see the tweet that was like, why is Tom Izzo, what's his nickname, like March something?
It's just March.
Yeah. So like people are like, well, why is that his name? Like he doesn't actually like win it. And someone posted the Wikipedia screenshot of like how many times he's been to the tournament for like 1998.
They're with Kansas in terms of the longest streak, and he's
Yeah.
been there for every single year.
And he wins there. I think he averages an Elite 8 appearance like every 3 years or 2.8 years or something like that.
Has he won it there yet?
He's won it.
Okay, once.
Yeah, he has. I'm pretty sure he just has the one win.
Yeah, just the one.
But I mean, it's hard to win
Yeah.
the whole thing. So I think getting it done once is enough in that regard. I think it'd be stupid to call him March if he had 0.
I don't know if I think you could be, if you've been to the tournament for 27 straight years, because I think it was 98. I feel like it was the 90s. So 27 straight years.
I mean, at the end of the day,
That's not a team you want to run into. Like,
I mean, it's not a team you want to run into. I'm not saying he's not a good coach, but like to call him that and act like he's possibly the best coach ever when he's in March when he's never won it
that's fair.
would be a little extreme.
Yeah, they won in the
You
year
need the crown
2000.
jewel. You need the crown jewel on your, on your crown or on your cap, the feather. I mean, even, we have a lot of coaches currently that are kind of still searching for one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's exceptionally hard to win it.
Yeah.
To win the tournament, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So much variance. It's
you have to win 6 games in a
single
row.
elimination.
6 games in a row, single elimination. You're playing with 21, 20, and 19 and 18-year-olds.
Unless
The
you're
big
Bruce
thing
Pearl.
for college sports is, unless you're Auburn with Chad Baker-Mazar or with all these COVID years, you don't get to keep guys for. When you coach at the elite level, you don't get to keep guys for much longer than 2 years.
Yeah.
Before they're off to the draft, and it's hard. You could say, "Oh, I want to build a team out of guys that are going to stay here for 4 years," but they're just not as talented. You kind of have to have a guy like Cooper Flag if you're going to want to go win.
Agreed.
It's hard to build a team kind of how Florida has, where it's a bunch of veteran guys that have played a lot of basketball.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't go and try and slam coaches just because they haven't won enough. It's hard to win it once, let alone a second time. I mean, Duke's last national championship was in 2015, and we still probably call them, the program in college basketball.
Agreed. Yeah, I'd hope it didn't. Me saying I wouldn't call him March if he hadn't won one came across as me slamming coaches that haven't won it, because I do understand it's very hard. But to just like have that title of like the best coach in March, I do feel like you have to have got it done at least once, and only once, because I do realize it's so hard. But yeah,
So I haven't fact checked this, but I was curious. So in football, there's the stat where only 3 active coaches have won a championship. I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's up now.
It's Dabo, Kirby,
And now Ryan Day.
and Ryan Day. That's it.
Just okay. So just the 3. Oh, and it was the UNC coach, but
Mac
he just
Brown,
retired.
yeah,
Brown.
he's gone.
So
Not just the UNC coach, the Mac Brown.
sorry, Mac Brown won it at Texas. But
Letter T.
currently in college basketball, there are only 6 coaches who have won a national championship, and I mean that's active coaches.
Yeah.
Yep.
So dissing guys and taking away because it's like, oh, they haven't won it. It's like, yeah, well, there's 364 teams in Division 1 basketball, and only
there is.
6 of their coaches have won one. So
Only 3 of them have won it recently. The other ones are Rick Pitino, Calipari, and Tom Izzo. The other 3 are Scott Drew, Bill Self, and Dan Hurley. Yeah, winning is not easy.
We're gonna get one this year, though.
Yeah,
We're
we
gonna
are
get a
gonna
new one.
John
Yeah.
It's a
Shire
guarantee.
will be a national champion.
He will be
that's wild.
in 5 days. You heard it here
How
first.
about that?
All right, so next show will be, this will come out Thursday. Next
Yeah,
show
this will come out. Yeah,
Monday, and we'll do a championship preview, I assume, or Final Four review, championship preview.
it'll be
Yes.
a Final Four. Yeah, championship preview. I think that's technically. What else do we have on the docket?
We would have a state sports update.
That's right.
So we'll
Yep.
talk about the state hosting South Carolina.
We can throw some more
And then
Jake Mangan
softball
updates
as well. We can talk about Jake Mankum.
We may have another
State sports
segment, but
update.
all we have scheduled currently is state sports update.
And then the National Player of the Year is supposed to be announced
That's right.
Saturday night or Sunday during the day. I know that for sure. So we'll be able to discuss that when Cooper Flag wins.
Do y'all want to
Huge.
throw 30-second, just your vote for Player of the Year?
I mean, mine's still Cooper Flag.
Yeah,
we
it's still
did
Cooper
it.
Flag.
I think I changed from Janai Broom to Cooper Flag. I was a Janai Broom guy 4 or 5 weeks ago. Cooper Flag has just kept his foot on the gas, and Janai Broom, I feel like Auburn as a whole has just been a little bit underwhelming over the last month. So
It
Cooper
sounds
Flag,
crazy to call Auburn underwhelming because they keep winning, but relative to where they were,
correct.
it is a little underwhelming. But I think we can wrap up the show with that. Thanks for joining us. As always, we were a little all over the place today, but hope you all enjoyed, and we will see y'all, I guess,
Monday.
Monday. Yeah.